Hey everyone, we've got one of the worst storm systems in years unfolding across the United States. A significant severe weather and tornado outbreak is likely to take shape today, Sunday, and even into Monday. Now, let's talk about the severe weather threat. Today is a high end severe weather day. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk of severe weather stretching from central Iowa and Illinois down through Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, and northern Mississippi, and into parts of Alabama. The surrounding areas, including eastern Nebraska, southern Mississippi, Alabama, and middle Tennessee, are under an enhanced risk, which is a level 3 out of 5. Beyond that, a broader area from the Great Lakes down to the Gulf Coast faces at least some risk of severe storms. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. The biggest threat today, damaging destructive wind gusts. We could see winds as high as 100 miles per hour in parts of Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, and extending as far as Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. The strongest winds are in the red and magenta shaded areas, especially where we see those black polka dots. That's where the highest risk exists. On top of that, we could see a significant tornado outbreak. Tornado chances range from 2-5Z in the broader risk zones to a 10-15 chance in the yellow and red zones, and the areas marked with black dots. That's where we could see strong long-track tornadoes, F2 to F5 strength. That threat covers cities like St. Louis, Peoria, Paducah, Memphis, and parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas. The hail threat is no joke either. Some areas, especially around St. Louis and Memphis, could see hailstones as large as baseballs. That's a serious threat to homes, cars, and anyone caught outside. Now, let's take a look at how this could play out on radar later today. Around noon, storms will begin popping up in Missouri. By mid to late afternoon, an arcing band of supercells is expected to rapidly develop from Kansas City through St. Joseph and Springfield, Missouri. These storms will be capable of producing tornadoes, 100 mph wind gusts, and baseball-sized hail. By 5 p.m., we'll see a rapidly intensifying squall line moving eastward, bringing widespread wind damage and embedded tornadoes across Illinois, Missouri, and beyond. Into the evening, dangerous rogue supercells may form in Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi. These isolated storms could be responsible for producing long-track tornadoes, possibly staying on the ground for 30 minutes to an hour or more. And overnight, Derico-like squall line will continue eastward, bringing more high winds, lightning, and tornadoes into Illinois, Kentucky, and Indiana. And if today wasn't enough, Sunday is shaping up to be another high-end severe weather event. The moderate risk, level 4 out of 5 shifts into eastern Louisiana, central and southern Mississippi, and most of Alabama. An enhanced risk level 3 extends into Tennessee, including Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga, while the severe threat continues all the way north into West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and even parts of the Great Lakes. Saturday's storms could bring another round of baseball-sized hail, particularly in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama. Once again, wind gusts could reach hurricane force levels, and the tornado risk is looking extremely dangerous. There's already a 15 chance of strong long-track tornadoes, and there's potential for that to be upgraded to a high risk, especially in Mississippi and Alabama. If that happens, we could be looking at F2 to F5 tornadoes in some areas. The setup is textbook for tornadoes. Warm, moist air surging north with dew points in the 60s and 70s. Extreme instability up to 4,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, and powerful wind shear. The low-level jet will be screaming at 80 knots by the afternoon, creating a prime environment for tornadoes. And check this out, the significant tornado parameter, which measures the tornado potential, is maxing out at a staggering 44 out of 10 in parts of Alabama and Mississippi. It's off the charts. By midday Saturday, storms will already be firing up. Supercells will form ahead of the main line, with numerous individual storms capable of producing long-track, violent tornadoes. Some of these tornadoes could stay on the ground for miles and cause catastrophic damage. If you're in Mississippi, Alabama, or surrounding areas, take this seriously. Have a safety plan in place now. And this system isn't done yet. On Sunday, the severe weather threat shifts toward the East Coast. A marginal to slight risk level 1-2 covers areas from the Delmarva Peninsula up into the Northeast, including New York City and Long Island. Even down in Georgia and Florida, storms could still pack damaging winds, hail, and a few tornadoes. By late Sunday night, the cold front will finally push off the East Coast, but not before dropping 2-4 inches of rain, leading to potential flash flooding across Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Southeast. Meanwhile, on the northern side of this system, a blizzard could develop in the northern plains. Parts of the Dakotas, Nebraska, and Minnesota could see 5-8 inches of snow, along with gusty winds and hazardous travel conditions. As if that wasn't enough, the active weather pattern continues next week. Another strong system is brewing in the central U.S., which could bring more snow to the upper Midwest and another severe weather event to the Ohio Valley and Gulf Coast. It's still early, but this is something we'll be watching closely. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. In addition to powerful winds, large hail is another serious hazard with this storm system. The most substantial hail threat will likely come from the initial supercells that develop along the Mississippi River Valley, particularly in parts of eastern Missouri and western Illinois. Some of these hailstones could reach the size of baseballs, posing a significant danger to vehicles, roofs, and even people caught outside. However, while the most concentrated threat for large hail is expected in this region, hail remains a possibility across a much broader area from central Minnesota all the way down toward the Gulf Coast. Even if you are outside of the primary risk zone, it is wise to take precautions to protect vehicles and other property from potential hail damage. Perhaps the most alarming aspect of the storm system is the increased risk of tornadoes. Forecast models now indicate a 15 probability of a tornado occurring within a 25-mile radius of any given location in the high-risk zone. This is particularly concerning for areas around St. Louis, as well as southern Illinois and southeastern Missouri. The probability of strong and long-track tornadoes is now elevated, meaning that these storms will not only be capable of producing tornadoes, but that some of these tornadoes could be particularly intense with long paths of destruction. While the highest risk exists in the red and yellow shaded regions, tornadoes can still form in any of the areas under a marginal, slight, or enhanced risk. Because of this, it is critical to have multiple ways to receive alerts and a well-thought-out tornado action plan in place. For those living in mobile homes or other less secure structures, planning ahead is especially important. Mobile homes are particularly vulnerable to strong winds and tornadoes, and it may not be safe to wait until a tornado warning is issued to seek shelter. Instead, if you live in a mobile home, you should identify a nearby sturdy structure and plan to go there well in advance of any severe storms. This is not a risk that should be taken lightly, as tornadoes within the storm system could be particularly intense. Looking ahead to Saturday, the situation in the southeast appears to be even more concerning. A large moderate risk area has been identified covering eastern Louisiana, central and southern Mississippi, and nearly all of Alabama. Even a small portion of the Florida Panhandle is now included in this risk area. Given the atmospheric conditions, it is highly likely that we will see an upgrade to a high risk, the most serious level on the severe weather scale before the event unfolds. The Storm Prediction Center has already issued statements warning that multiple high-end tornadoes are likely, which means that this system could produce intense, possibly violent tornadoes. For those in Dixie Alley, Saturday will be a day to remain highly vigilant. With the environment set to be extremely favorable for tornado development, residents should prepare for the possibility of multiple long-track tornadoes. Areas within Mississippi and Alabama are especially at risk, but strong tornadoes could also develop in parts of Tennessee and Georgia later in the day. While the primary risk area is centered in the Deep South, the severe weather threat extends northward into the Ohio Valley, including portions of Ohio and Pennsylvania. In these regions, the risk is somewhat more conditional, dependent on how storms develop, but damaging winds and isolated tornadoes remain a distinct possibility. Beyond the immediate threat of tornadoes, damaging winds will continue to be a major hazard, particularly across the southeastern states. Widespread wind gusts exceeding 70 to 80 mph are anticipated across Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Florida. Loose objects, outdoor furniture, and temporary structures should be secured to prevent them from becoming airborne in these powerful winds. The severe weather setup for Saturday will also bring yet another significant hail threat, especially from central Tennessee down to southern Louisiana. Hailstones the size of baseballs or larger could develop, creating a substantial risk for property damage. Even areas farther north stretching up into Ohio and Pennsylvania could see large hail, though the most concentrated threat will remain in the southeast. The tornado risk, however, remains the most pressing concern. The current forecast maintains a large 15 risk for tornadoes in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, but many meteorologists expect this risk to be upgraded as conditions become clearer. There is a strong possibility that 30 or even a 45 tornado risk will be added in portions of Mississippi or Alabama. which would signify an extremely dangerous situation. The atmospheric ingredients for a significant tornado outbreak are all present, and unless there are major shifts in forecast models, Saturday is shaping up to be a particularly volatile day. As storms develop through the afternoon, supercells will likely form across the southeast, producing multiple tornadoes, some of which could be strong and long-tracked. Even as evening approaches, the risk will remain high, extending into parts of Tennessee and Georgia. For those in the affected regions, having a reliable way to receive warnings, such as a NOAA, a weather radio, or a trusted weather app, is crucial, especially given that some storms may occur after dark. Beyond the severe weather threat, there are additional hazards to consider. Strong winds across the plains have led to the issuance of red flag warnings, meaning that fire danger is also high. Parts of Missouri, Texas, and Oklahoma are under wind advisories and high wind warnings with gusts expected to reach 60-70 mph. These strong winds could also lead to dust storms in some areas, particularly across the southern plains. Given the seriousness of this unfolding weather event, staying informed and prepared is critical. If you are in any of the impacted areas, make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings, a well-thought-out safety plan, and a secure place to take shelter if necessary. Thanks for watching, and see you next one.